what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson, with more than 2 decades in sales. I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on the planet. It doesn't matter where you come from, what personality you have, what background you went through. You can carve out a pretty amazing life in sales. Today's guest, no stranger to the journey, also someone that I found interestingly was in the first chicken nugget commercial. So pretty excited to hear that story as well. Welcome to the show, Corey Quinn. How are you, brother?
Ruby, I'm so excited to be here. Doing great. And I love sales. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Heck yeah, man. Well, let's jump right into it. You've been in the game a long time. Let's hear your wildest sales story.
Well, I think the wildest sales story, gosh, I mean, I got a lot of them. I think the biggest, most craziest thing that we ever did was I gave away a Tesla at a conference. Now, the way we did it was really cool, right? We were newbies in this vertical market. So the background is I worked for a digital marketing agency. We saw this market, this vertical market called franchising with multi-location businesses. We saw a gold mine, but we were brand new to it. So what did we do? We went to the national conference, and our booth, we had put together this booth. It was a double-decker booth, so you could see it from anywhere on the trade show floor. We were the big booth. Everyone's like, who is this company? And of course, parked at the booth or right next to the booth was a brand spanking new Tesla S, right? An S model Tesla. And this is right when they came out. It was a big attraction. And the deal was that someone in the conference was going to drive away from the conference in this very Tesla right here. The deal was that you had to come to our booth and we had to scan you. Once we scanned you, it would be automatically entered to win. On day 3 of the conference, which was a 3-day conference, you had to be present. We put all the names in a big basket. We did the anonymous name picking, picked a name out of the basket, called the name. If you weren't in the crowd right there, we would call the next name, right? So you can imagine on day 3, everyone's blown away by this huge booth and this car. It's gonna be a giveaway. It's an amazing thing. We had 1,000 people surrounding our booth. It's a huge conference, 1,000 people surrounding our booth. And it was just such a great moment in fact, the first name we pulled, the person was there. And it was just this wonderful moment. And as a result of doing that and some other shenanigans, we were able to go from 0 or effectively 1 franchise client to 100 franchise clients in a short period of time, like 1.5, 2 years.
Phew. That's one of the things that I think it can sometimes, and I'm just going to say this, but sometimes it can seem a little spammy or salesy when you see people doing these big giveaways or when you're walking through somewhere and they're like, hey, fill out a raffle ticket. But the truth is, you can't actually win those things. Not all of them are scams. I, too, at one point in my marketing journey, realized that, hey, if I'm trying to get people to give me their information, giving them something of value is a great way to kind of persuade them to do that. And in my experience, we used to give away tickets to the minor league baseball team here in town. So when I was in the market, everybody loved the minor league team. So we'd raffle off the tickets. Mm-hmm. And I remember, man, that was how I started this whole journey into online marketing and personal development. Was literally building a landing page, raffling off tickets to this event. And so what I'd love to know in that situation, of those 1,000, let's call them leads that essentially you guys got, scanning in, giving this away, you mentioned that it turned into a lot of clients over time. What was the process like for you to be able to take that information and then start converting them into actual clients?
Yeah. So out of let's say the 1,000 businesses that were there, let's call it for every 10 people, maybe 5 businesses. So let's call it 500 leads for us. Not every one of those was qualified. So we had to take the manual approach of following up on everybody and doing some qualification in the sales process. And then as a result of that, of course, it went from 500 maybe down to 50 prospects. And you know how it goes. It's sort of the funnel, every step of the funnel, you get more and more specific and the number goes down. But I think the short answer is you take all those leads and you just start at the top and you start going one by one, just going through them and see what kind of opportunities we can build. The reality is what we were selling, just some detail on that, is that um, it's a longer sales cycle. We were selling them a brand new web presence and local marketing for both the franchisor and all the Z's. So as a result of that, some people wanted to buy, but they weren't ready, and so on and so forth. But I think the real impact of it was putting us on the map, right? Of all of these people who'd never heard about us before. All of a sudden, they had this impression of this crazy company, gave away this amazing car, had a great presence. They were different and unique, and they left this wonderful impression on me. And as a result of that, we became known, which of course led to future opportunities as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that I love about sales is that part of the journey is to go from being an order taker, which is kind of the entry of sales, as you just get on the phone and take orders from
Yep.
people, to being a
Yep.
true sales professional, is that
Yeah.
ability to walk the line between sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Because brand building, authority building, putting yourself out there, being known, the authority for your product, for your service, is so
Yeah.
important. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of sales professionals miss out on that because they just get too focused on that one lead source or that one opportunity source. And it's like, oh, well, I had a real estate client. It was like, oh, well, I get all my leads from a builder. He sends me all my business. And then that was awesome until his builder went out of business, and he came back to me and
Right.
he's like, bro, I got to
Right.
start making cold calls, and like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you
No
got to
one knows who I
diversify. You
am.
got to get
Yeah.
known.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
in your journey of the building
Mhm.
that marketing and kind of starting that process, what would you say kind of became your secret superpower for sales? How did you differentiate yourself from everybody else in that space? Because I
Mm.
mean, it's a lot of opportunity, but there's a lot of marketers out there also.
Yeah. So the way we approached it is, I would say, from a sales perspective in the franchise industry, it happens to be, if you think of QSRs, which are quick serve restaurants, you think of McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell, like it is a huge industry in total, but we only worked with a segment of franchising. So let's say out of 1,000 businesses, or out of the total market, only 1,000 businesses was our unique was the area where we could really work with them. So there's only the total addressable market, if you will, was 1,000. So what we did is we became really familiar with who the executives were at those 1,000 companies. And in truth, it was, when you whittle it down, it's probably closer to 200 in the center of the bullseye. We became us and our sales team became very, very familiar with those businesses, who the executives were. And in a world where we had no relationships, one of the things that we did, which was really impactful, which was we would send a gift ahead of a cold call to these executives. The type of gift we would send, we would always start with cookies, gourmet cookies. And Drewby, these are cookies that are so good you have to like hold the wall not to fall down if you're standing up eating these things. I mean, these are earth-shatteringly good. And so as a result of that, sending a gift. Oh, in fact, I have a great story about sending a gift, if that's okay.
Yeah, bring it on.
Um,
Let's lean in on this, because I want to talk about gifts too, but I want to hear your story first.
Yeah. So there was a guy, Justin, on the sales team, and he was really wanting to get a relationship with the CEO of one of these franchise brands, and she was very popular, really hard to get a hold of. And so he struggled until one day he actually was reading a magazine, and in the magazine was an article about the same CEO he was trying to prospect, and it was an interview. And in the interview, the CEO he was prospecting was asked, "What's the best advice you've ever received?" And her answer was in the article, the best advice I ever received was a quote from my dad, which is to, I'm trying to get it specifically, but it was something about, be remarkable and have fun. Okay. And as a result of that, Justin, the sales guy, he went straight to Etsy, found an amazing artist, and had that quote embroidered on a beautiful pillow and sent FedEx to the CEO. As a result of that gift, which was very thoughtful and really nice, that turned into an introduction, turned into a relationship, and it turned into a $1.7 million deal for Scorpion.
God, man, Corey. All right, so there's a lot I want to unpack from this, because this is so. I mean, sales, relationship building,
Yeah.
service. There's so many nuances to this world that I think get looked over by the people who just come in and see sales as they're here to make money. They're trying to take money from me. or this is a get rich quick industry, because
Mhm.
yeah, you can make a lot of money, but the truth is the way that you can impact and build relationships, it's exponential. And I love the story of him hearing that, going to Etsy, getting it made, sending it, because I too have a very similar story of
Yeah.
a gentleman I worked with. You know, he jumped into one of our lower ticket programs, just kind of seeing what was going on. I saw that he had mentioned a story of him and his wife going to the museum and seeing the Starry Night painting, the original Starry
Yeah.
Night, and how much
Nice.
they appreciated that. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And while I'm not going to pay for the original Starry Night, I did go to Amazon and find one for like 150 bucks, you know, and I sent it to him as a thank you gift.
That's
That guy
awesome.
sent me $500,000 in business, probably over 2 years, 3 years, and still to this day continues to work together. But it's
Yeah.
that little touch of relationship building that makes such a difference. And the gift part is, cookies is cool. Don't get me wrong. I used to take cookies and donuts and all that as an insurance agent, but the
Yeah.
nuance of doing something a little bit special,
Yeah.
something different. I want you to
Mhm.
touch on that a little bit, because I would imagine
Yeah.
that's not the only time you have used that in your journey as far as from a
Mm.
sales perspective to build relationships. And I think there's some value to that.
Yeah, I think the benefits of cookies is that if you get a good cookie, you could be rest assured that you're going to make some impact. But when you do something that's personalized one to one, um, that I think this comes from John Rulin. He's the author of Giftology, and he talks a lot about this. But he basically says that there's something about when you receive a gift that's thoughtful and intentional, you makes you feel like a VIP. Makes you feel like this person, gosh, person really went out of their way, and you can't help but to reciprocate, right? You almost build up this reciprocity into that by receiving this amazing gift. And that's where I think people get gift giving wrong, honestly, is that they think, well, let's do a campaign and send out a bunch of coffee mugs or Yeti mugs, which Yetis are nice, but certainly not personalized. Doesn't mean a whole lot. What basically the communication is, well, we heard about this gifting thing, we had some extra budget, so we're sending out some gifts. Versus this one to one, right?
Yeah.
And so, where possible, being able to be thoughtful and intentional will communicate that, number one, you feel like that they're a VIP in your world and that you genuinely want to build a relationship with them. Because if you were only looking to do a transaction and exchange money, you wouldn't be sending that gift in the first place.
That is so good. And the other part of
Yeah.
that too that I think is really good for especially the more B2B listeners that we have that are kind of in that longer term sales cycle, maybe
Yeah.
higher ticket type market, because that's not typically someone that sees an ad on the internet, clicks it, submits their name, phone, and email, and signs up to give you $1 million. Like, that's
Nope.
not
Nope.
typically how this works.
Nope.
And so, I really appreciate the forethought of, hey, if we know our product and service can help this specific market,
That's right.
how can we
Yeah.
go even further to say, all right, well, if there's 1,000 people in that market, we know realistically we only want to work with like 200 of them. So let's
Mhm.
really focus in and have a very specific process and a campaign to build that relationship, to nurture long term. And I mean, I know, kind of looking through some of your information before the call, I mean, you were able to be a part of a company that was able to build to very, very massive success.
That's
And
right.
then you took that and kind of parlayed it into building your own business and opportunity. And then I know you have a book that you've written. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that journey, man.
Yeah, so we took the business. So I joined this company was called Scorpion, and I joined in 2015. They were doing $20 million. It was already successful, and I was hired as from the founder as their first marketing hire. And what they were really interested in, the founder was really, really dedicated on growing. He wanted to help a lot more businesses. Of course, the business was grown on referrals, which is very typical of a lot of service-based business. A lot of they get a lot of referrals by building a good reputation. But for this founder who hired me, that was not good enough. Right? We had to grow faster. And so what we did is what most people do when they're, the inbounds and the referrals are not providing enough leads. We started cold calling, right? And we bought lists. We started cold calling, smiling and dialing. Dialing for dollars. I loved it because I came from a financial services background where I was a broker, right? And I was smiling dollars. So I understood what that world was. The challenge is that we were calling into law firms, and law firms, if you ever called in law firms, they have a professional gatekeeper, right? The office manager, the receptionist, and their job is to prevent salespeople from getting through to the attorney, right? They do a really good job of that. That's what they're trained to do. And so cold calling became very, very challenging for us as far as generating new sales. Despite all that, we still wanted to grow. So what did we do? And that's where we figured out to sending cookies as a first touch. But the cool thing about this approach is that we wouldn't just send cookies once, because we knew that 90% of the people who we sent cookies to are going to ghost us. We would send a gift every quarter for 3 years in order to get that first meeting. Right. So there's a lot of persistence there. So that's one thing we did with that company, Scorpion. We also went to a new vertical, which is franchise. And then, as I mentioned, and then home services. We eventually grew it in 6 years, 6 short years, to $150 million in recurring revenue. So about an 8X in 6 years. I got to tell you, I was not as gray when I started there. Let me tell you, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. But I think a couple keys to success, the one big key to success I'll share with your audience is that we were able to scale up a service-based business serving small to medium-sized businesses, which is hard to do, by becoming a vertical market specialist. And what I mean by that is we originally focused on attorneys. When we decided to expand into franchise, we actually started a separate business unit, hired new employees, had people dedicated to solving the franchise problems that were different from the attorney problems. And as a result of doing that, becoming that specialist, building a reputation in that industry, of course, things like we were simplifying the sales process. We built momentum in the sales team. We built a process-driven sales process because it was so repetitive. But most importantly, our clients stayed with us because we understood their problems through specialization. That ended up being our competitive advantage. All of our competitors were losing their clients because they were too diffused and scattered with all the different types of clients. They would lose clients in 6 months. We would keep clients for 3 years. And as a result of that, every client we brought in, we knew that they would stay for long term. And so we would market harder. We'd hire a better sales team, do better lead gen, give away cars, and so on and so forth. So long story short, the key to success that I'm passionate about is if you want to build a scalable business, it has to be focused on a specific vertical market. And that's the work that I'm doing now. That's the book that I wrote. It's called Anyone, Not Everyone, the Proven System to Escape Founder-Led Sales. And it's a 5-step process to go from serving a lot of different clients in a lot of different areas to focusing on one vertical market so that you can get the benefits of specialization.
Well, and Corey, I'll speak very candidly and personally as far as like with Call the Damn Leads. That was one of the hardest things when we launched this business, having been in a space where we worked with thousands of entrepreneurs over 5-6 years in my last company, hundreds of different verticals. I've had to solve problems and figure stuff out for some of the wackiest and wildest things. And initially you have this thought of, man, we can help all these people and there's so much we can do and it's so amazing. And you have this great big vision of what's possible. And then, like you said, how do you specialize? How do you know for sure this is the result that we can guarantee to deliver based on XYZ versus, yeah, sure, you can solve a lot of problems, but the other side of that is the person you're solving the problem for has to have the decision, the commitment, and the willpower to go and take action on that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times, what I found in my marketing company early on was even if I'm great at getting you leads and I've given you all the templates and blueprints and systems, if you won't pick up the phone and call the damn things, there's not much else I can do for you.
Call the damn leads.
That's it. And so, Corey, I would love to know, as you start introducing this to founders and business owners and professionals, how much pushback do you get on that mission of, because I want to help everybody versus let's focus first.
So I kind of do more of a judo chop, which is, or maybe it's not judo. I'm not sure which martial art it is, but if you're telling me that, then you're not ready for me, because here's what happens. I believe that there is a human bias that we're hardwired to want to say yes to as much opportunity as possible. As entrepreneurs, that's how we get started. We get started by saying yes. Yes, you want to work with me? Sure. You want to work with me? Sure. Like I'll say yes all over the place, right? And so we have this reinforcement that saying yes is a good thing. Of course, at a certain point, after days, weeks, months, and years of this, you look up and you have a business that has no systems, has no process, everything's bespoke, and there's a lot of chaos in the business. That's because there's too many variables floating around in your business. That's when a founder says, well, I'll just go out and hire a cold calling company to help get me more leads, or I'll hire someone else to manage all the chaos. Of course, that doesn't work. So it's only until they go, okay, Corey, I've tried a lot of other things to try and fix this chaos problem in my business. None of it's working. I've always known that specializing is a good idea. I just need someone to take my hand and walk me down the path. And that's when I typically become an important figure in that transition.
And I think you touched on something there that I personally have witnessed, especially in the last 4 or 5 years with everything that's gone on in the world. So many people have tried to delegate long before they had a true system and process.
Yeah.
and honestly, I've seen a lot of businesses fail because of it, because they didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to be responsible. And everyone around them was saying, oh, just delegate it. Just go have someone else do it. Hire a VA, hire somebody else to take care of it. And oftentimes, if you don't understand the process, at least at enough and a level to be dangerous in your own business, you should not be putting someone else in place to drive that vehicle, because it's uninsured. There's no seatbelts, and there's probably cut brake lines in that thing. So, Corey, I love that you mentioned that, because man, it's so crazy to see that happen to people.
Yeah. Well, I think the founder's job is to create the systems and processes. That's the big role for the founder. If you think about, there's a classic book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, and he talks about this idea of taking a normal restaurant and calling it McDonald's, because it was McDonald's, and having Ray Kroc come in and systematize everything. He didn't leave that up to someone else. He figured out the systems himself. He created a manual for it, and then he sold the heck out of it, right? And so what you want to do as a business owner, in my opinion, is to own the processes and own the systems such that when you hand a new employee a document that is a process with a number of steps, that as long as they follow the process, they're going to get the expected outcome. Now, your job at that point, once you have that, is to make sure that they're just following the steps, right? Until you have that system, you're going to be founder-led. And inherently, there's nothing wrong with having a founder-led business. But if you want to build a business that everyone wants to buy, but that you don't want to sell, meaning it has a fully self-sustaining operating system, then you are going to be founder-led, and that's where you're going to be stuck.
Well, Corey, I think one of the best things I've done in my own business, and I know you've done in yours, and you made a great example of, is writing the book. When you write a book, you can literally give someone the blueprint, those exact processes on how to achieve the result. And from what I can tell, and I'm waiting on my Amazon delivery of Anyone, Not Everyone, your book is a great breakdown and process on how to start understanding, to dial in, get that integration and everything in place. So, for those of us who really loved the conversation today, where can we come find you, learn more, check out, other than ordering the book, what's the next best step for us?
Next best step is to go to anyoneNotEveryone.com. And Drewby, you may appreciate this. There you can get the Audible version of my book, the audiobook, for free. And it also includes workbooks, which has videos and checklists and a whole bunch of resources available, so you could implement the 5 steps in the book. Just by listening to the book, using the workbook, you'll get the outcome. So that's a resource for all the listeners.
AnyoneNotEveryone.com. Is that correct?
Bingo. That's it.
All right, man. Well, listen, I could hang out with you all day, and I would really enjoy that. Maybe someday we'll get that opportunity. Before we get out of here, I always like to ask, because one of the cool things about sales is the opportunities here are endless. There's always someone new coming in, someone old going out. Let's say one of those new guys just showed up. Maybe this is the first episode of a podcast they've ever listened to, because they want to grow, they want to get better in sales, in marketing. If you can give them one piece of advice to take action on today and for the rest of their life, what would it be?
So my advice would be to learn the art and science of consultative selling. And there's lots of different slices and flavors of that. But effectively, that is not trying to sell someone a product, but first asking where they are now, where they want to be, and then crafting a solution that meets them where they are and where they want to go. That is a great way to understand things like influence and persuasion and how to choreograph a sales conversation. The sooner you can get out of a transactional sale and into more of a consultative sale, the quicker you make real money in sales.
You know what? And I think that aligns perfectly with your idea of specialization as well, because
Yeah,
if you're going to be great at something and solving problems, be a specialist, know that inside and out. And the
that's
next
right.
best thing to do is if you can't fix it, just tell them, you know what? I'm not your guy for that. However,
That's
I
it.
might know someone who I can, like my man Corey, who's got a ton of great information. So if you enjoyed the
Thank
show,
you.
go check it out, anyonenoteveryone.com. And more than anything, if you had a great time with us, if you enjoyed the
Mm,
show, share this episode on social media, tag us, let the
let's
world
go.
know
Let's do
that
it.
you enjoyed it, and let them come and find some more value, because that is what we're here to do. And I tell you what, if you got your own crazy sales story and you want to share it on the show, go to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your information. We'll reach out. We'll get you on, just like my man Corey, who absolutely crushed it today. So thank you again, brother.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time. Go call the damn leads.